Some environments are engineered for total conformity, where the architecture itself reflects a rigid social order. In this town, the rules were explicit. A black sound was categorized as a direct threat to the status quo, effectively criminalizing cultural expression that didn't fit the local mold. This was the world the girl entered, born with Down syndrome and a voice that carried the very weight and soul the town tried to outlaw. Her existence created a friction even within her own home. Her family processed their prejudice like a persistent storm, reacting with bitter hostility to anything vibrant or colorful. The community's response was immediate. They pressured her into silence before she even had a chance to understand her own identity. In a system sustained by fear, unfiltered beauty is treated as an existential risk. To stay safe, she had to retreat into survival mode. That external pressure soon became a physical sensation. The songs she wasn't allowed to sing began to feel like a literal obstruction in her throat. Visualize this process as a tightening grid. Conditioned to stitch herself into this structure, shame held the threads in place. Within this cage, every attempt to sing triggers a warning, turning her voice into a hazard. To survive, she swallowed her essence entirely. Effective oppression doesn't just silence people from the outside, it forces the individual to maintain the walls of their own internal cell. Change begins in a microclimate. This porch acts as a buffer zone, separated from the atmospheric weight of the town's prejudice. A visitor joins her here. They don't arrive with a loud plan or list of demands. They simply sit down in the adjacent chair. While the town used aggression to force her into silence, the visitor uses a quiet, passive presence. There is no pressure to perform or explain. The visitor's low, steady hum creates a waveform that neutralizes the jagged spikes of the girl's trauma without triggering defenses. This consistent frequency creates a pocket of safety. Slowly, the rigid lines she built lose their tension. Quietly, the antidote to a lifetime of suppression isn't a louder voice. It's the provision of a vacuum where there is no cost to speaking. As the environment shifts, the weight of the town's fear finally sloughs off her skin. The visitor didn't give her a voice. By changing the variables of the space, they allowed her to reclaim the agency she had already possessed. Her mouth opens like a doorway. The closed system of her internal prison finally gives way to an open connection with the world. The years of suppressed expression rush outward. She is no longer hiding. She is simply existing at full volume. Liberation doesn't require granting someone a voice. It requires the removal of the environmental penalties for using it. The songs she was forced to bury for years are suddenly unleashed, carrying every note the town tried to kill. The sound hits the community like a physical force. It is a frequency the town's rigid structures weren't designed to withstand. As the sound travels, the town's momentum halts. The residents find themselves frozen, caught in the sheer gravity of the music. In her family's house, the reaction is visceral. Tears begin to fall in the same spaces where their prejudice had lived for generations. The purity of the song acts as a catalyst, cracking the storm clouds that had hung over her family's chest. There was no way to run from the sound or ignore the reality of her presence. The town was forced to confront a humanity that their rules couldn't account for. When a marginalized identity is expressed without compromise, it creates a friction that challenges the very logic of the surrounding prejudice. The porch has become a seat of power. In this space, her voice is the defining authority. The event proved that her spirit was never intended to be folded or kept in silence. As her voice rises like a river, it completes the work of setting her spirit free. Challenging systemic hate doesn't always involve a loud frontal assault. Often, the most transformative act is providing the quiet solidarity that allows a hidden voice to break a town open.